Namaskar. We will continue from where we stopped last, that was yesterday. We were discussing the exempt incomes, share of profit. We discussed last time that when a member of HUF gets his share of profit from his HUF, the share of profit which he receives from the HUF will be exempt from tax in his hands. That was section 2, clause 2. On a similar footing, we have clause 2a. Let me discuss this a bit. It deals with a registered partnership firm, a partner's share of profit from his registered partnership firm. When a partnership firm, this is a typical instance of taxability. When a partnership firm has profits, partnership firm will itself pay tax on that profit. It is about 30%. Supposing a partnership firm has 20 lakh rupees profit, 30% of that will be 6 lakhs. So 14 lakh remains. Assuming there are two partners, A and B, 14 lakhs will be distributed amongst the two partners A and B. 7 lakh to A, 7 lakh to B. The share of profit, tax paid share of profit, which a partner will receive from his partnership concern, would not be chargeable to tax in his hands, for the reason that the partnership firm profit has already been subjected to tax in the hands of the partners. Tax paid share of profit when distributed by a partnership firm to the partners by virtue of clause 2a does not become chargeable to tax in the hands of the partners. Here I will take you back to the salary, remuneration which a partner receives from his partnership concern. I think you will recall the discussion which we had in this context. A partner receiving salary or remuneration, as it is known as, from his partnership concern. Mind you, partnership concern. A, B, C are partners in a partnership concern, A, B, C and company. A and B receive salary, not share of profit, salary, remuneration as it is known as, from the partnership concern. Please understand, it is salary, remuneration received by partners A and B from their partnership concern, where they are partners. This remuneration is chargeable to tax in their hands, not as salary income, though it is known as salary, but it is chargeable to tax in their individual hands as business income, chargeable under the head profits and gains of business or profession. You should note this distinction. Remuneration received by a partner from his partnership concern will be chargeable to tax in his hands under the head profits and gains of business or profession, in short, business income. I am discussing a few exemptions in general which are relevant from your heads of income point of view. Limited exemptions only I am discussing. Leave travel concession or leave travel assistance, as it is known as. Leave travel concession, clause 5, section 10, clause 5. You would be aware that employees, when they are working, are eligible to leave travel, meaning they would be visiting their native place, or they may be going out for a vacation maybe. So for their fare, airfare or train fare specified, they would be eligible to either full fare or a concession. Some part of the fare may be given to them, reimbursed to them. We are on this issue. When an employee receives leave travel assistance, leave travel allowance or leave travel concession. To illustrate, supposing he travels to Kashmir for a vacation, he pays a fare, his own fare, let us say of rupees 10,000 to and fro, and his company gives him 8,000 rupees towards fare. We are referring to this 8,000 rupees. Whether it will be exempt from tax in his hands or not is the issue. Clause 5 comes into picture here. When we solve problems, this will still become more clear. Please understand, we are discussing the taxability or exemption of the leave travel concession in the hands of the employee. 8,000 rupees is what he has got by way of LTC or LTA. We are discussing whether it will be exempt from tax in his hands or not. If 10,000 is what he has spent and if 8,000 is what he has received, we are discussing the exemption or taxability only in respect of 8,000. We are not on 10,000. Please understand, the amount which he has got from his company is the amount which has to be considered for the purposes of taxability or exemption. There is no question of 10,000 rupees deduction. Please understand, we are not discussing that issue. We are discussing 8,000 rupees which he has received as LTC or LTA. Will that be chargeable to tax in his hands? Now, section 10 clause 5 deals with this. I am not going into the details of it. When we take an illustration, it will become more clear. I am only trying to make you understand. It will entail some kind of remembering. I am not initiating those steps. I am making you understand now. When we take an illustration based on this salary income computation of an individual, of an assessee, then we will take LTA taxability. Just understand, we are on 8,000 rupees which he has received as LTC or LTA, whether it will be chargeable to tax or not, and if so, in what ratio, in what amount. Next is death cum retirement gratuity. This is important. Death cum retirement gratuity. A person may receive gratuity in two instances. One, when he retires, or when the person expires, his family may receive his share of gratuity. So, on whatever occasion he receives gratuity, whether on retirement or the family receiving gratuity on his death, there would be an issue of taxability of gratuity. First, let me make you understand as to what is gratuity. Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. I will not be discussing those provisions, honestly. We are only discussing the tax effect of the receipt of gratuity. Here, let me tell you, the government employees and the non-government employees are treated differently. When there is a distinction made between government employee and non-government employee taxability distinction as far as taxability is concerned. Earlier there had been instances when this discrimination between the two segments of employees, government and non-government employees. Government employees were given a far better, are given as even today, are given a far better treatment as far as taxation is concerned. The same is not available in the case of non-government employees. So I should tell you, constitutional validity of such provisions, such discriminatory provisions, which made discrimination on the issue of taxability against the non-government employees. Government employees were given concessional favorable treatment as far as taxability is concerned, and that favorable treatment, concessional tax treatment, was denied to the non-government employees. So people went to the Supreme Court. We have Article 32 of the Constitution, under which you can approach the Supreme Court in case there is an abridgment, in case your right is affected by the law, in case Article 14 as well, where equality, the issue raised by the employees who went to the court was the issue of equality, breach of equality under Article 14 of the Constitution. Government employees are given concessional treatment, which is denied to the non-government employees in respect of gratuity received. So they went to the High Court, to the Supreme Court. There was a discrimination made. Supreme Court upheld these discriminatory provisions, means they are valid, they are not unconstitutional. So that continues. So death cum retirement gratuity is again extending any gratuity received by a non-government employee, by a government employee, is exempt from tax in full in his hands. The same is not the case in case of a non-government employee. There are specified limits based on which the exemption is available to a non-government employee. Again, when we take the case, a problem, I will discuss the amounts with you so that you remember it. I'll give you notes based on that. You can refer section 10, clause 10. After minimum working is 5 years, based on the number of years, I will tell you, just introduce to you as to how gratuity is computed. Generally based on the number of years. Supposing a person has worked for 25 years, so 25 months salary will be amount given to him as gratuity. Last drawn pay, supposing that is rupees 50,000, supposing, so 50,000 is his last drawn pay into 25 months. That much will be his gratuity amount, which will be generally received by him. We are not discussing the exemption. I am giving you a general idea. Commutation of pension, clause 10A. Commutation, you are all aware as to what pension is. As I told you, the government does not leave tax even from pension. Even pension is chargeable to tax. The head of pension taxability is salary. It is chargeable under the head salary. Commutation of pension would mean that after retirement, as you are aware, only government employees are eligible to some kind of a pension. Now I will want to discuss this at length a bit. This is a little off the income tax discussion, but you should know this. This is very important. Tomorrow you will be in the job market. You should be aware. Your parents may be working in non-government concerns, in private concerns, so they would be equally concerned with this. Pension, just a little off the income tax issues. You would appreciate that in our country, we have a huge population, 130 crores is the population, 1.3 billion. Of that huge population, about approximately 5 crores only are under government employment. When I say Government employment, I include all the governments, all departments of central government, all state governments and their departments, and all local authorities, municipality, gram panchayat, zilla parishad, they are all local authorities. I am not including the employees who are employed in, let us say, HPCL, which is a government company. It is a government company. It is a government undertaking, not a part of the government. Government can do business as you and I can do business. Government also can do business. So it is the government business. HPCL, BPCL, they are all government businesses, government undertaking. Government is the major shareholder, major stakeholder in those companies. I am not including those employees. I am referring only to the government departments. Income tax department, BPT, port trust, sales tax department, GST now, and so on, customs. Only these employees, about 5 crore in terms of population, are eligible to some kind of a pension. Here I would like to bring to your notice that our country has already initiated the reforms in pension. You should also know this. After 2005, the government has stopped pension scheme. It is now contributory. Like you have provident fund where you, I mean the employee and the employer contributes. Likewise, pension scheme is also since 2005 is contributory. During the course of employment, like provident fund contribution, you may also be required to make pension contribution. That is contributory. Government has now started shedding its responsibility, and maybe rightly so. I am not opposing it in a way. Rightly so, the government has stopped giving pension. You should also know at this stage, the pension bill of the government, monthly pension bill is now approximately equal to the monthly salary bill of the government. Now, how will the government afford? How will the government afford? So, the government now, there is the age, the number of years, survival has also increased, longevity has also increased. So, therefore, those employees who were government employees, they would be given pension all their surviving years, for all the time that they are surviving. Now, please understand, it is becoming very, very difficult for the government to pay pension. Therefore, it has come out. It has also allowed the insurance companies to issue pension policies. Even at this age of yours, 20 years, when you start working, you can subscribe to a pension policy, pay premium to a pension policy. You may decide at 55 age, 40 years age, or 60 years age, I want pension. So accordingly, they will start, you will have to pay the premium in respect of this policy. So this is a reform in respect of pension. So any person, maybe you will be doing business tomorrow, you may take a pension policy. It is not that only salaried employees will be allotted pension policy. A non-salaried employee, a self-employed person, a businessman can also take a pension policy. It is like any other insurance policy. Pay the premium, be eligible, you will get the pension at that age that you decide, and the amount that you decide, that will be determining your pension, your contribution towards the premium. Commutation of pension, coming back to income tax, class 10A, commutation of pension means that instead of the monthly pension, sorry, you will be receiving a lump sum amount. Just to illustrate, supposing the pension of a person is rupees 50,000 per month. Now, if the person wants to commute his pension, he may tell the government, okay, you commute the entire pension. So the government might say, okay, if you want commutation, that commutation factor is decided by the government. The government will say, okay, if you want a commutation, I will give you 50 lakh rupees. That's all. I will not give you any pension now. Against your 50,000 rupees monthly pension, which you were to get all along till your survival, I will give you 50 lakh rupees as commutation of pension. He may say, okay, give me 50 lakh rupees and then no further pension. Or he may say, okay, I don't want 50 lakh rupees, I want some monthly pension also. 30,000 rupees you commute and 20,000 rupees you give me monthly pension till the time I am surviving. Government will say, okay, against your 30,000 rupees commutation, I will give you, let us say, 30 lakh rupees, for example. He will get 30 lakh rupees and then he will get a monthly pension only of 20,000 rupees. We are on the commutation of pension. Again, here, the lump sum received as commutation of pension will be chargeable to tax in the case of non-government employees, subject to limits. In case of a government employee, they are given concessional treatment. So the exemption in case of a government employee is full. Exemption in case of a non-government employee is in accordance with clause 10A. So here they have made a distinction. We will discuss the amounts of exemption in case of when we take a problem based on that. So I think that is clear to you as to what is commutation of pension. In case of a non-government employee, it is chargeable to tax, not the entire amount is exempt, but in case of a government employee, yes, they have a concessional treatment. Now come to leave salary encashment, clause 10AA, section 10 into bracket clause 10AA, 10AA. Now capital A, leave salary. Now you would be aware that you may in government organizations and in private organizations also, private companies also, we have the same issue, we have the same facility. You may work for 11 months in a year, 12 months of the 12, you may work for 11 months, and for 1 month you will be entitled to leave and also salary along with that leave. So you may work for 11 months and still get salary for 12 months. You will be chargeable to tax for 12 months, obviously. Now come to a case of leave encashment. You are a very hard worker, a very dedicated worker, you don't take any leave in the entire year. All 12 months you work, all 12 months without taking a single leave. So obviously you will get salary, you will get paid for 12 months, you will be chargeable for 12 months salary. Now you could have taken 1 month leave which you didn't take, so that is lying to your credit. You may take that leave whenever you want. Supposing you have worked for 25 years, to make things very easy, supposing you have worked for 25 years without taking a single leave, without taking a single day leave, assuming for each year 1 month is what you are entitled to leave, which you didn't take. So you have 25 months leave to your credit. So before retirement you can take 25 months leave and still be paid salary, but you don't do that. You work for 25 years and now you are retiring, or sometime in between you are encashing. You may tell your company कि against 25 months which is lying to my credit as leave, you pay me salary, encash it. So leave encashment, you can encash your leave either at the time of retirement or sometime even in the course of your employment, you can encash your leave. So leave encashment is chargeable to tax as salary in case of a non-government employee, which details I will discuss with you when I take a question based on that. So what is leave salary encashment? That some leave which you could have taken and you haven't taken, you haven't availed of the leave. Now that leave you are encashing, you are asking your company to pay salary instead of that leave. That is leave salary encashment, not exempt in full. Taxability ensues. Life insurance policy maturity, clause 10D. Now, generally believed life insurance policies are insurance policies. They insure a person, they provide money to a person, to his family members post his demise, or in case it is a term policy, after the expiry of the term. I am not going into those details as to what is a term policy, what is an endowment policy. I honestly am not even aware much about those policies. So you should know that a life insurance policy maturity, your father may have taken 30 years back, he may have taken a policy of 25-year duration, let us say. So what it means is that after 25 years the policy will mature. So then your father, he may have taken a policy of 10 lakh rupees. So what it means in simple terms is that over 25 years he will pay the amount of the policy, which is 10 lakhs. So over 25 years he will pay 10 lakh rupees as premium, yearly premium. After the completion of the term, or that is after the maturity of policy, he may get approximately double the amount of policy, approximately. So if 10 lakh is the policy amount, he may get 20 lakh rupees on maturity. So we are referring to this amount, which will be exempt from tax in the hands of your father when he receives the policy on maturity. Now please understand, insurance policies generally are policies of indemnity. They have a different purpose, absolutely. They seek to provide some assistance to the family members who are left after the demise of a person or after a term, as I have told you. But you should also be aware that these days insurance policies also have an essential investment option. Just to draw an analogy, just to compare, as you put money in a fixed deposit in a bank for 5 years, after 5 years you get the fixed deposit matured. Supposing you have put 5 lakh rupees today in fixed deposit, after 5 years you may get 7.5 lakh rupees, for example. 2.5 lakh rupees is your income, accumulation of interest. Insurance policies now have these characteristics, investment characteristics. So obviously when you have an insurance policy which is not, insurance policy essentially is an insurance policy insuring life, but it is not only an insurance policy, it has added investment advantages. So why should the government not recover tax even in respect of such insurance policy maturity which have an element of investment? I shouldn't say element of investment, I have to put it appropriately. It has certain characteristics of investments. Such insurance policies, though insuring life, have an essential feature of investment, and on maturity there may be taxability. I am not going into those details, that is not even a part of your syllabus, but you should know in principle as to what is insurance policy, what is the taxability, and in that case there is an exemption, as I have told you in the first case. There is generally an exemption, but then if the insurance policy is not merely an insurance policy, it has other characteristics also, say of investment, then taxability would ensue even in case of maturity of an insurance policy. Now we have house rent allowance. I will finish this house rent allowance, otherwise it becomes a little problem in uploading, around 30 minutes. House rent allowance, if you are working for a company, the company may give you house rent allowance. Apart from your salary, it may tell you that this is, if your salary is 50,000 rupees, I am giving you additional 10,000 rupees to meet the high cost of rent. So house rent allowance which you receive, subject to limits, will be exempt from tax in your hands under clause 13A. Of course, as I have told you, the rules, the exemption limits are given in the rules. Rules are not a part of your syllabus. So you may only be concerned, they will tell you HRA received 10,000, exempt 6,000, for example. So you can do that 10 minus 6, 4,000 is taxable into 12, 48,000 is the house rent allowance taxable. That much you will be given in the question. Rules are not a part of your syllabus. Thus understand, house rent allowance which you receive is exempt subject to limits. There is not entire taxability. Thank you very much. I think I will stop here.